Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Like, share, and subscribe. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Remington, made with pride in the USA. Iconic American impact. Wenig custom gun stocks. Head on down for your custom fitting. Remember, winners shoot Wenig. Shot Tracker, like having a coach on your barrel. For more info, go to takeaimtech.com. Life is too short to miss. RM Shooting Clinics, helping shooters from coast to coast. Have Ricky take your game to the next level. Zach Nannini at Northwestern Mutual. Trusted advice from someone you know. We believe in putting people first. Other supporters for Trap Talk. The Nevada State Trapshooting Association. Don't miss their 75th annual state shoot this October in Las Vegas. The NSTA puts on some great shoots, and they're going big for this year's state. Go to nvtrap.com to check out their program and all other shoots as well. The Utah State Trapshooting Association would like to invite you to the 109th annual state shoot this June 21st to the 25th at the Vernal Rod and Gun Club. Vernal holds the Western Grand, among other great shoots, and throws a world-class target. RV camping and fun side events make this a state shoot that you don't want to miss. More info at utahtrap.com. Welcome to another episode of Trap Talk. I'm your host, Zach Nannini, and I've got my co-host, Richard Marshall Jr. today, joining me from Wisconsin. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Thanks, buddy. How you doing?
How's it going down there?
Oh, another day. They start prelim days today. So we're going to shoot some practice, or actually Tyler's going to shoot some practice a little bit. I might shoot the doubles event. We'll see. That's how much time I got. Got a lot of stuff going on.
Well, I know, this is pretty much what you do full time. So you're always shooting, you're always doing lessons, you're always, working gun deals and stuff. And it's just like, it's got to be tiring in the middle of the summertime to go from shoot to shoot to shoot to shoot and never really have a break because you're always on the road. I mean, I go back to work a little while, but you're always on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to have a little bit of a break every now and then, but we were on a break. We shot PA in Ohio and then came home, and we're home about 2 weeks. So over the 4th of July, which is nice. Got to spend a nice 4th with some family, friends, and big fireworks show. And so it was nice to kind of, decompress. Now get back into the shooting mode.
So right now it's going to go Wisconsin this week, Iowa next week. And then do you have anything before the Grand, or are you going to go right into the Grand after that?
I'll go. We'll be home about 4 days, I think it is. And then we'll head to the Grand for the 8th.
Okay.
So I'll be down there for that. And yeah, it's just a little 3 to 4 day break.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm sure you'll have some clinic lesson calls on those days too, so it won't even be that much of a break, right?
Yeah, I've got quite a few people that want lessons. It's just tough to get back to everybody. So I'm going to do some stuff at the Grand there during the AIM, and then there's an off day this year. I don't know if you knew that. On Tuesday, they're not
nothing.
They're not doing. Yeah, so possibly I'm sure they're going to have all the fields open, or at least the practice open. So I'll probably do some lessons down there then also.
Yeah, I might need to come check it out and get a little handicap tune up before we go into the Grand. So,
well, for a nice little price, I can probably help.
So, we've gotten some more emails in. I think every time we do a show, we get a few emails and some questions. I really wanted to focus on today, and we kind of compiled a list of trap shooting do's and don'ts, like what should you do, what shouldn't you do. And I think that's coming off of that conversation we had with Joe the other day when we got into etiquette, and we kind of went down that round and, teaching people how to act a certain way and how to carry yourself mentally into these tournaments. Also, we had a couple individual questions that came in, and I wanted to answer them personally because I thought they were good questions. So I'm going to read the first one. It's I'm not going to name the shooter's name, but you'll know who you are when you hear the question. The email came in. Hi, I'm a 17-year-old shooter from Southern Illinois, and I've been getting better as time goes on. I've shot 100 on singles and and I'm on the 25.5-yard line. My best doubles is a 98. And I've been wondering, what can I do or think differently to get me over the hump in handicaps to get me that 1.5 yards of punch? When I'm shooting good on caps, it's towards the last box. I think I have a 96 or I have the event in the bag and then I miss. What can I do differently not to get thinking about the yardage and not miss those birds? Thank you.
Well, in the question, he said it. I think I got the event in the back. You never have the event in the back. I mean, I've been doing this 35 years and I've done it. Any top shooter that tells you that they've never done this or done that, they're full of it. I mean, I've been on the last post before and, been held 1 or 2 and been like, yeah, loss. And you're like, really? You've done it, Zach. I mean,
100%. I can remember doing it in very important events in my life that I'll never forget. One of the times that I remember the most is I was going into the last post of the California State Handicap with a 99 going, and I missed one for a 98, and I ended up tying 9 ways in a shoot off for 98s instead of having a lone 9. I chopped the money 9 ways instead of having a loner. Ended up losing the overall by a target and losing the all around by a target. So literally, like, it was everything on that target. And I kept thinking to myself, I've got this. And I just messed it up. And it wasn't like I've got this. It was like, I've already done it. Like I was being almost too confident where I thought, oh, this is in the bag. I'm going to bust these last 5 and it's over. I just lost my sharpness and my focus for a second. I think it's very important. Doesn't matter if it's the last box, the first 5, the last 5, you have to shoot them the way you've been shooting them. So, I think so many people wind up or they wind down for the occasion. They're going into that last 10 or last 15 and they start either going faster or they start going slow and they start thinking to myself, okay, I've got this, last 25 in, got to make it count. Or they try being more precise with it, trying to place the shot, right? And that's where you get into a lot of trouble. So I would tell, the shooter just to don't change anything and let the chips fall where it may. If you shot the first 3 boxes good, I would try to keep it as similar as the first 3 boxes going into the last box instead of trying to pull out this extra level of technique or extra level of trick. But I think, and you could respond on this, Rick, because as well as anybody, when your mind goes there, because it's going to go there. It's going to go there and it's going to say, you know what? I'm about to get a punch. I'm about to go to the 27-yard line. I'm about to win. How do you get it back focused onto the process, Rick? What are you doing?
Well, so for me, I've been there and been fortunate to been there a lot, breaking, some good scores. But I always, as I get down to the last draft, I'm like, okay, inside, don't have to sell, type of deal. And it's just one target at a time. You just broke 75 straight, say you're straight, or you're down 1 in handicap, or you're straight in handicap, or down 2. We'll just say you're on a good score.
You're on a good score.
You don't go in there trying to be a defense. That's what a lot of people do. They go into that last draft or that last post, last 10, last 15. They're on the defense. Like, okay, I'm going to try not to miss versus hit the targets like you just did the first 75, 80, 85, whatever it may be. That's where people get in is their mind starts working and you got to cut that out. You just got to say, hey, I'm going to one target at a time, see it, shoot it, all through, yada, yada, yada.
And I think you have to embrace that those thoughts are going to come in. Like, you have to be okay with knowing that those thoughts are going to hit your brain, and what you handle them and how you handle them is going to be, successful or unsuccessful. But Ricky has those thoughts. I have those thoughts. Everyone has those thoughts. You can't help but go, be straight in the doubles championship of America and not think, okay, I break this last 10, I'm in the shoot off. Like, that thought's probably going to jump into your mind at some level, but you have to go back to, okay, what do I have to do to break these targets? Where am I holding? What am I doing? get back to the process, to get back to breaking the birdie. And to give a shout out, we have a listener, Nathan Hull. He broke his first 200 straight.
Yeah.
I just spoke with him.
Yep.
I spoke with him on the phone the other day, and forgive me if I'm wrong, Rick, but did he ever take a lesson from you or no?
No, Nathan never did. He talked to me about guns and stuff. Yeah, and Nathan's a great guy. Him and his son, uh, So yeah, I saw that right away in that cheesy picture he had on. I think it was Trap Field as opposed to
Trap and Field. He had the cover
Yeah.
his first 200. I called him the other day and I congratulated him. I said, "Hey man, great job." And he says, I gotta say, when I was at the last strap, I was nervous, but I kept thinking about what you and Ricky said about everyone gets nervous. And he said, I just got back to work. And he said it finished. And he said it was really helpful because if you haven't been there, you got to know how to approach that. Right?
And you always revert back to, and I take this back to any big score I broke at a shoot. I mean, I still get nervous. It's just controlled nerves. But I always, in my mind, well, because we as humans work on self-satisfaction. Okay. If you do something good, we're happy. You do something bad, we're kind of pissy, Some people go off and smoke cigars and drink bourbon,
or eat ribeye steaks.
Yeah.
Hey,
but Rich is always running off and buying, bourbon and smoking cigars. But what I always tell everybody is you want to revert back. So if you did something good, you can always go in your mind, well, I just broke that last 25. Why can't I break this 25? Break it down into 25s, as we shoot them. Now years ago, I don't know if you remember this, we had a short stint of a few of the shoots where we shot 10 a post.
I remember I shot the spring round. They used to have 50 targets a trap, and you'd go out there with 50 shots and exactly post. And I tell you what, I was not in love with those 10 a post singles events because you're out there and you're on post one and you just get 10 hard lefts in a row and you're like, damn, come on, baby. Give me a straightaway.
Well, and that was so. I used to practice years ago. I would take and set a flat at each station, at each post, and I would shoot 25 and then move. So I'd shoot 125 before I left the field. And so when we went to 10 a post, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But what I did, then I broke it down into fives. So I would shoot 5 and I would take a step back and reset because it's almost like your feet would like melt into the concrete.
They get too jelly after that many shots.
Absolutely. People didn't realize that. And that was what people used to come up to me. They're like, what are you doing different? You're still breaking good scores. And well, I would shoot. They'd see me. They're like, why are you moving? I'm like, get my legs. Okay. Well, go back up the second 5. And it's one of those things. I didn't let this overtake, my ability to break a target. Everybody has the ability to break a target. Just like the person sent the question in, they want to get back to the 27 so bad. We all do. I've been there since I was 15 years old. I made the 27-yard line June of, I guess it'd have been 89, 90, somewhere around there. I made the 27. Now, I wanted to get there, and I did. I've had a ton of students that have had houses built on the 25, 26 because they're thinking, my own son, Tyler, he's on the 26-yard line now. He's only shot maybe 700, 800 handicap on the 26. But like I told him, I said, son, it just doesn't boom, you're there. You got to work at it, So that's one of the things. And as our listener, that said the question in, just go out and shoot. Don't worry about it. You're on a good score. The score doesn't mean anything till the end.
Yeah. And even then, this is the saddest story in the world, but the first 200s from the 27 I broke, I lost in the shoot off. So, I mean, it's like one of those things where You could break a perfect score. That doesn't mean you're going to win the event always. Like that,
Yep.
obviously, especially at the bigger tournaments, it's going to happen. I have Dave Kelly and Stu Welton to thank on those shoot off victories that they beat my butt in. But hey, it is what it is. I got the third one. My third 100 from the 27 actually won the event. So that was my first time.
That must have been at Martinez.
That was the good old Martinez
bet.
Club.
Yeah. You didn't play all the money though. I remember that.
Everything but the 50s. So
where the money was.
So I did want to get into kind of some do's and don'ts. Some people have asked, for you, Rick, as far as glasses go on a do and don't, when do you change lenses? When do you not change lenses? How long do you get before you go to the field to start looking at colors and doing that side of it? I mean, I think I know your answer already, but what is your opinion on this factor?
Well,
I have a lot of questions.
I don't have my glasses here in the camper with me. They're in the truck, but I use one color, and it's a bronze. And that bronze, I mean, and I do have some new lenses that are supposed to be here at Wisconsin today, from L&M Lenses. They do all my lenses for me. Tom Morgan's the owner now, but I use a bronze. I do have what's called a pink glow, which is a pinkish color, a real overcast, and then clears for nighttime. My son, you, my squad mates, Justin DeBree, Wyatt DeBree, they all wear Pillas, and they all change
all the time.
All the time. Where me, I never got into changing like that. And the reason why is I just, one little color, lighting, you start, then you're worried about your eyes. You're like, oh, I can't see this good. And then you'll just put doubt in your head.
Yeah.
So, I try to tell everybody, now hold on, go to the trap and take a, your lenses, whatever you got, and look at some targets a couple squads before, because if you're going to change a lens from one to another, it doesn't really take the full effect for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And I know people that do this, throw them on and then run right out and shoot. It's, not that good a deal.
I'm in the same boat as you. And what I'll say is, the color that I use every day, with exception to extremely bright days or extremely dark days, would be like a target orange color. I mean, it's just the one color that I've always used in every event. Now when I'm in shoot offs, it's a 10% yellow or gold, kind of that's nighttime color. And then I have that same bronze copper lens that you have for my really bright overcast, really bright days. If I'm shooting in Vegas or something like that, and the sun's over the top of my head. But I think, as far as a do and a don't, I think find the few lenses that work really well for you and stick with them. Because if you're always like, if you got, I'm not saying this, to say, well, you don't need 15 or 20 lenses, but I'm saying once you go through those 15 or 20 lenses, you should be able to find the ones that you use day in and day out that work really well for you, and stick with it. Something you mentioned earlier about getting to the squad in time, for your eyes to adjust. I mean, I leave mine on probably 20, 30 minutes before an event at least. Some days I just leave them on all day, and I don't even ever take them off while I'm shooting.
Well, you don't wear prescription. Yeah.
They're not prescription. So, if you have prescription, I know you gotta let your eyes take a little bit of a break from that all day long. Otherwise you can get a little bit of a headache and go from there.
Yeah. It's all, I wear prescription, for shooting. And I put them on in the morning, and I leave them on. Years ago, I used to put them on an hour before I shot. I'd shoot an event, I would take them off because I only need them for shooting. And then I'd have to put them on. Well, now I just kind of leave them on. But you want to go and look at targets. That's one thing I've noticed in the last 10 years, I guess. You know, a lot of people don't go to the traps anymore and look at targets. They show up for their squad. Or me, even though I still do that. Ohio, I was late quite a bit because for especially the single thing, we were late both hundreds. I was selling guns in between. So,
I
but
understand.
yeah, I try to get there. And even though I'm maybe talking and interacting with people, I'm still watching targets and kind of seeing, okay. But yeah, I love the bronze color. And, you know, our buddy who, passed away, Mike Reiner, who owned Post 4 Optics, he's the one that got me turned on to the bronze color. He was
Yeah,
like,
and
try.
I miss him for sure. He was a good guy. And
Oh,
I'm still
absolutely.
using Post 4 glasses right now.
Why?
Same
Yep.
frame, just putting different lenses in them because I can't get Mike to grind them anymore. But that being said, you mentioned getting to the trap beforehand for the lens. As far as a do and a don't, how early do you think it's good to get to a trap? And is there a certain amount of time where you're there too long and you get fatigued? Like obviously, you probably don't want to be there an hour and a half before you shoot, right? I mean, what's kind of the sweet spot that you would say for shooters?
I would say show up 30 minutes, for a couple squats. That's all you really need, just to show up and look at targets. You can see height of targets and what's kind of going on there and if everything's good or maybe it's throwing kind of a weirder target and you could be aware. I always tell be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, and it's one of those
You
things
know,
where, like, I've shot with you a long time, and it's not like you're always saying, "Oh, these are bad, we gotta change them." It's just a matter of, "Hey, Zach, these are a little to the left. They're a little bit to the right," or, "Hey," they're kinda in that zone. I think this kinda carries into our etiquette conversation with Joe is, you know, knowing
speaking,
what
hold on. Speaking of that, I got a lot of text messages from folks. And I won't say anybody's names who text me, but and even some Facebook messages about when Joe brought that up, that they were like, that really needs to be discussed. The target taking, you know, turning down targets and stuff like that. They said, we see that so much, and I think it's made a lot of people mad. They don't say anything. Our squad, as we don't take any target. You know, we
Yeah, I think as an etiquette thing, we're you have people that don't shoot together all the time. So you have like you walk out to a squad with random people that you don't know. And I gotta give this to KO Yang. I've shot with him a few times, and I don't know. Have you ever shot with him, Rick, or no?
uh, I shot with Kay. I think one time years ago. I mean, I shot off against him a lot.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, shooting on a
but
squad in an event.
no, I think one time years ago I
So if you haven't done this, it's an experience. Because Kay really leads the squad. And what I mean by that is I get on Kay's squad one day and he didn't ask me to get on. I just like filled in a post and got on there and didn't know I was shooting with Kay. Well, I get there and he literally pulls the whole squad together in a huddle before we go out. And he's like, all right, guys, everybody keep your eyes on the target. Anybody sees a chip, call it immediately. If you see a missed target, make sure you call it immediately. I'm the one signing the score sheet and I'll make sure we look at them before we go out. I'm like, damn, this guy was not here to play, and I think he almost took it to the extreme. But that being said, you know, it made me feel like, well, if he had some new shooters on here, he's literally just laying it out for him. And I think with new shooters, sometimes you don't always know what to do and when to do it. And the
mm,
most common thing is like, when do you interrupt to fix a mistake on a target? Like if somebody calls it lost, some people from an etiquette standpoint are thinking to their mind, well, man, this guy's shooting a good score. I'm shooting a good score. Maybe we should wait until the end of we change the post and fix it then. I'm really
fix it
against that.
now.
Yes. I think as soon as it happens, as soon as you hear, a target be called lost that's not lost, you correct it. And if you correct it right then and there, it's done. If you're waiting until the end of the change to do it, well, sometimes I'm thinking about that. As a shooter, I'm just like, oh, well, do they know that that's a loss, or do they know that's a hit, or, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about that, Rick?
Yeah, I'm with you. You change it right then and there.
Right on the spot.
No, yes. Yep. If they call it loss and it's a hit target, immediately. You can't wait, because what happens is people are like, well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and
Did,
vice versa, a loss to a hit or a hit that was a loss. I mean, it was
Yep.
either way, and it's quickly but politely stopping the scorekeeper and getting them a check. And if they seem like they don't know, because God knows they don't always know. I mean, it'd be nice if the squad leader goes back and makes sure that it's done properly. And it's also nice if it's signatured, right? I mean, if you have a dead bird, put an initial on and put right dead, or
Well,
right loss.
yes. And this is one of the things I know, and I won't say who. I got a couple phone calls during Ohio State shoot from people at other shoots that had some issues with targets. They hit a target. They went back, told the scorekeeper put a line through it. Okay. Well, what happens is, it was the loss, and I'm writing this down on the paper in front of me. And no, it was that target. So the scorekeeper did that, and they initialed it. Okay. Well, it looks like that with the initials on there.
Yeah.
Problem is, okay, and I'll do it a little better because I have paper on the other side, but that, and with an initial, and it looks like that. Well, that's still a lost target.
Yeah, it doesn't say dead.
It has to say
Dead.
dead. I mean, that's so the management didn't tell them that. They just kind of, the kids were like, well, we didn't know, and they didn't. Which, I mean, when I was a kid, and I think I told you this in the very, our second episode on Draft Talk that I was on. My dad took a rule book and said, here, you're going to shoot this, you need to learn it. So I did. And so I know, and that's why I lead off. And you know this, when we're shooting together, I don't control everything, but if there's an issue, I go back, I tell them, listen, this is it. And you get some scorekeepers that are real timid, or that, they've been yelled at, which I am totally against. You should never yell at a scorekeeper.
You shouldn't yell at them, because one, I get it, right? We would all love to have trap shooters or someone that knows the rule book or knows everything up there in the stand. But the reality is nowadays, folks, is, these gun clubs aren't paying these people a ton of money an hour. And even if they are paying them, a minimum wage, that doesn't always mean you're getting the highest quality of people to go do this job. Right. So I think you have to understand that, and you have to give them some leniency, and we have to self-govern. I mean, we all have to do our own thing and make sure we're doing it. And the other thing that you don't want to see is, you don't want to have 5 leaders on a squad all trying to fix it. You want to have one guy, like Ricky's the guy on post 1, he's handling it. If I'm leading off, I'm handling it. Whoever's the leader. Now, if you're ever on a squad with a random post 1 guy and he isn't doing it, you either need to pull him off to the side after the round's done and said, hey, do you want to handle that? Or if we have any other issues, you want me to handle it? But I think that's something that you do off the cuff to the side. That's not nothing you need to bring up in front of the other 5 guys or anything like that. But there needs to be somebody handling the situation, because that is very, very important. And for the life of me, I can't understand why anyone would want to take something that they didn't hit. And when you hit it, when you didn't hit it.
Oh, absolutely.
And there are some, and I've seen some very good shooters have a target get marked dead that they didn't hit. And when you're talking at that level of the game, I mean, makes a big difference. I mean, you give Ricky a target, an event, and
you're not beating me.
No, yeah, it's not fair to anyone. It's not fair to anyone to give anyone at any level anything that they didn't earn. And it's also not fair to take anything away from someone that they did earn. And I've seen it
Well,
to the other side of the coin. I've seen it where somebody's hit the target, it gets called lost, and everybody on the squad's looking down at their feet or playing with their shoes, whatever, right? And they're
yep.
not looking at the target. You need to have 3 or 4 eyes on that target at all times.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's what, I learned this a long time ago from Frank Hoppy. And and I told that story on our episode. I got a target, didn't know. I was like, oh, I must have hit it, because sometimes there is targets that you're like, well, maybe I did hit it. Maybe there was a piece that
Well,
came
yeah.
off,
Yeah,
and
a lot of times you dust the hell out of it and it doesn't have a chip, right? So you don't know
exactly.
from that angle, if
Yeah.
you dusted it, if a chip came off on the other side. I mean, that happens.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. They were like, that target locked. And I said, well, the puller. And they're like, no, 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 no. I said, okay. They told me this is how it is. And from that day forward, never had another issue. And that's the problem, I think, is people don't, you know, it could be they just weren't, coached right as a kid. Cause I see some kids do it, and I've had to, like, parents have come up to me and like, oh yeah, he broke, he didn't miss that one. He hit that. And I'm like, well, I didn't see anything off. And I said, but, he also didn't hit the one before that. And they gave that to him. Now this is standing back there. And the parents are like, oh, well, what are you supposed to do? Well, you know what you're supposed to do.
Do the
You
right
don't
thing.
hit something.
And I think
Exactly.
at that younger level, and I'm most coaches that I deal with, most parents that I deal with, I would say 9% of everybody is on the level with this. But there are some occasions where there's the people that are like they want to win at all costs. They don't really
Oh
care.
yeah.
They don't really care how you get the win as long as you get the win. I think
Yeah.
that our sport is special because of integrity, and I think
Exactly.
that you know there's nothing that earns my respect faster than when you miss a target and you're honest about it. And I know that you're not willing to put your winning or your needs above the true value of the sport and that we love. And it, it's a gentleman's game, obviously for ladies too. But that being said, it's it's one of those things that
You can
teaching them on the wrong foot at the beginning can only cause trouble in life moving forward.
exactly. Well, and here's the thing. It's like Ohio, and I think I said this on the episode with Joe. I had a gentleman come up to me. We were shooting, and Tyler missed a target, the puller. We had a lot of issues with targets there. That's why Joe brought it up. These scorekeepers, they're just scorekeepers now. We used to call them pullers because they pushed the button
And
and they
score
scored.
both.
And they were aware. They were on Johnny on the spot. These kids come up and not to get off topic, but the kids come up, their buddies come up and talk to them. And I've got to turn around and tell them one person in the chair, that's it.
Yep.
Okay. Unless they're training. If they're training, that's a different story. I got no problem with them having two in there as long as they're not chit chat.
Yeah, they're not playing on their phone. They're not doing this and doing
Exactly.
that and having
And
a time.
yeah. So we're shooting and Tyler misses. And I said, what'd you call that? I said, that was lost. It was his last target. So when we changed, I went back and made sure it's lost or what. We get done walking to or take the golf cart to the next trap, get done. And there's a gentleman there and he's like, I just watched you take a target from your son. And I'm like, I didn't take a target for myself.
He didn't hit it.
Well, yeah, and I go, he didn't hit the target. I go, if you don't hit it, you don't get it. And he just looked at me and I could tell right then he's one of those that he's going to win at all costs. Well, there's one thing, integrity. And I know when I break a score, I can sleep it. Every
It's
target I
legitimate.
broke, I can go to sleep at night. I don't have to lay there and go, oh, I broke a 99 today, but I actually broke a 97. I've witnessed shooters taking them just as you have.
Yep.
And
And
it's just like,
once you've seen that, every time you see them on the board at a high score, you got to question yourself and say, well, I wonder if he actually hit those or not. I wonder if he actually had a 99 or 100 today, or if he just got on that bank where that score gave him a target or two. And,
oh, yeah.
and it's kind of, we're getting into kind of the drama of trap shooting, which I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole. But the reality is like when you're at the level and you're looking, that is something that you think, and you're like, okay, and there's certain guys I know that would never do that. And then there's some guys and I'm like, yeah, would they? Would they not? And all they can do to prove me wrong moving forward is not do it again. Like I'm sure everybody was young at some stage in their life and made a mistake, right? I mean, even when you were in that position and it happened to you the first time with Frank, you didn't really know what to do, right? So I think it's important.
I thought I broke it.
Exactly. I mean,
like,
give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You're like, yeah, I thought I broke it. I mean, I didn't know, right? And if you thought you broke it, and you don't have some mentor around you or somebody that's been there to say, hey, you know what, you didn't break it, then you could have gone off down that road too, and somebody could have seen and said, "Oh, Ricky took up target." Okay, well, it's a whole team effort, and that's
and
important.
I've seen this where someone got a target on a trap, and we've had some pullers that are scorers that giving away targets, as we say, and I'm like, and then you go to the next trap, and it happens again, and I'm like. And they know they didn't break it when they turn to look at you and go, they don't know where to look because they're like, oh crap, everybody's
I got caught again.
I watched a guy do this at the Grand American. This is years ago at Sparta, one of the first grands in a handicap. And I was actually on a 99 in that handicap. And I go up, we're following them. So I see the score sheet. The guy broke a 25 on the first trap. Second trap, he breaks 23, but they have him down as the 24. And the leadoff guy on that squad even said, I thought you missed too. And he's like, they didn't think so. Exact words. And I was like, and I run the first 50. We got to the third track, and this guy had a 25. And I'm like, okay, well, I go up. Now I missed. Now, what I missed, all of a sudden I was like, all right, now I'm tied. That was the first thought in my head. Now I'm tied with this guy that is not legitimately on a 99. He is legitimately should have been on a 98. Okay. So we go to the last box. He gets a target on I think it was their third post, if I remember right. Because back then we shot pretty quick. And he got a target on I think it was his third post. And when they changed, the leadoff guy was like, no, you missed one. And he turned around and he seen me standing there, and I was just staring at him. And I think he was reading my mind, and he's like, yeah, I think and the puller's like, oh, I thought I saw a piece. And he goes, oh, that's good enough then. And Leo guy's like, no. Did you see a piece or didn't you see a piece? And they go, well, it was a big thing. What was the wad?
The wad.
So then the squad goes, well, that was the wad. So anyways, the guy ends up breaking like a 96, I think. 96 or 97. I can't remember exactly. But I go out and I did break 99. And their squad was still hanging out, doing whatever. And one of the guys on the squad came up to me and he goes, I've seen you look at his score. He goes, he didn't hit that target, did he, on that second box? And I go, no. I said, he missed too. And he goes, yeah, we've shot with this guy before, and it seems like this happens. And I said, well, you guys as a squad, if you know him, whatever, need to either say something to him, or when he's shooting, don't let it happen, and then he'll get the drift. I go, and it was funny. That guy went up to him and said something to him. And this guy, his exact words were like, well, it ain't my problem if they're giving them to me. Well, that's cheap.
Yeah, it is your problem. You need to deal with it. And you need to freaking be able to walk in the clubhouse and own whatever you hit, no matter what, So
exactly.
And that was one of the things that we brought up that got the most amount of feedback and the most amount of questions around it. So I'm glad we decompressed it a little bit today. But other than that, Rick, are there any other major do's and don'ts that you really recommend for people? Is there
You
other
know what?
things?
You know my motto, have fun. Enjoy this. This is one of the greatest sports we can do where of all ages, all abilities. It's one of the only sports is, you know, eh, me as one of the top shooters, if I'm going to shoot and I'm, have a squad with openings on it, I always tell people, you need a
Jump on.
place to shoot, let me know. Jump on. As long as you shoot when it's your turn, have at it.
And that
You
is
know,
that is crazy cool though, to be able to say I can shoot with the best. And
yeah.
if you look at golf, nobody's gonna play with Tiger Woods. You look at
No,
basketball, nobody's ever gonna play basketball with Michael Jordan, right? But then, in trap shooting, you can stand there next to Ricky Marshall Jr. You can stand there, with Harlan or with
Harlan, you
A or with
with Pete,
Sean or with Joe
Pete
or with
Ditto. Yeah,
Steve.
Joey.
I mean,
It's
any of these guys that are, that are known as the greatest of all time. And what I think I would like to see from a youth perspective, we have all these youth shooters coming up. We have all these, young hot shots that got these hot reflexes and they're breaking everything at the end of the barrel. And they don't have mortgage payments yet, right? They're still not still on the full sponsorship program, right? And what I'd like to see is for them to know a little bit more about the history of the sport, to know who's the greats. Because sometimes, there's people that were amazing. Top end shooters, but you hit a certain age where it just doesn't happen anymore. And I remember shooting with one of them was Phil Ross. And Phil Ross, at the time that I got to shoot with him, wasn't much of a shooter. But that being said, it was still Phil Ross, right? And it was
yeah,
the same thing, happened on the back end of shooting with Benias. I got to shoot with Benias. I did get the fortunateness of shooting with Benias when he was good enough to put a couple of butt whoopings on me. He still there was still the back end of that where he was still pretty good, but then towards the end of it, he tapered off, and he wasn't, as killer of an instinct. But just
mhm,
to be there and know who he was, I could have been, some punk kid and been like, "Oh, who's this old guy on my squad?" Right? But I think it's one of those things where you gotta kind of know and try to look at the books and say, okay, well, who
mhm.
won this stuff and who's, obviously it's going to be another 30 or 40 years until you're old and out of the game, Ricky. But but I would want everyone to know who you are, regardless of
Well,
where we're at in trap shooting.
here's the deal. Yeah, the history, and I'm a big person on the history of shooting. I've been fortunate. I grew up, started in the '80s, but I was fortunate to. I've shot with a lot of our greatest all time shooters. Shot a lot with Leo, Frank Hoppy, Britt Robinson. A lot of people never seen those guys shoot, and it was amazing. Bob Munson. We had Eric on the show, the Munson family. Bob and Luann. As a
Legends,
husband and wife, yeah,
legends.
they were. I don't remember how many times they've been on the All American team, like 40 years each.
They've had like 60 All American teams between the three of them.
Oh no, it's more like between the three of them. I'm going to say it's more like 80 or 90
It's a
between the
lot.
three, between Bob, Luann, and Eric. But it's like Bob Munson. You know, Bob Munson won the Grand American Handicap. Bob Munson also won the Clay Target. He's won the all around. But Bob was known as a single specialist and a double specialist. You went to his shoot. I remember I broke the 100 doubles at the Central Zone doubles one year. And at Nebraska, I was shooting at that location. And Bob, I think, was shooting at Owatonna or somewhere of Minnesota at a location there. And I go there like, well, I'm pretty sure you're tied. You need to bank target. I went and banked 100 and I broke 100. And then I banked another 100. I missed in the first round, banked another 80, So basically I broke 199 out of 200 in the shoot off with breaking 100 in the event. And Bradford come up to me and goes, you're AAA. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, where? And he goes, well, I go, Bob Munson. How'd you know that? I go, well, I figured if anybody I was going to be tied with was Bob Munson. So a lot of kids nowadays don't know this stuff about shooters. Like you would look at those. Like I was fortunate, I shot with a guy by the name of Gerald Christmas. I don't know if remember Gerald at all.
I've heard of the name, never met
Gerald,
him.
yeah, Gerald, he was a single specialist. He won the clay target a couple times. When we shot, he broke the single. It's just like Nora Martin Ross. I mean, Nora hasn't shot for quite a few years. She still teaches a ton of lessons, which, we're going to have her on the show here sooner or later. But, Nora singles, guaranteed. Every time we shot together, I was like, mark her down for a 200 or a 199. And that's what she broke. I mean, she led the nation in singles average over man, woman, or child,
Yep.
with high singles average. So people just don't know the history. And that's one thing we should do an episode, and maybe it's good. People come to the Grand in Sparta. We have the Hall of Fame building. Go in and walk around there and check out the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Look at some of our past.
look into the past, look at who's been good and who's done things right, and
Yep.
just kind of understand that at some level, because I think everybody's so internally focused on, I'm working on becoming, this, and this, and this, and that's good. I mean, you got to have that competitive drive, but you also need to respect the people that have put their time into the game, and
Oh,
and go from there.
absolutely. We wouldn't have this great sport. I mean, and you knew him well, Leo Harrison III, our greatest all-time trap shooter ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really don't think there's anyone that's going to argue that point. I mean, I
No,
think
well, he's won 27, I think it was.
27, yeah, 27 rings.
I mean, that's pretty salty.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but what I remember about Leo more than anything was the way he handled himself. And
Gentle giant.
he was always so calm in demeanor. He never had anything bad to say about anyone. He was always very polite, and he was always
Yep.
willing to give back. And, I remember, the year, there was a lot of money in the Martin Lewis, and it was like Leo just got done winning the overall shooting. It was a big one. I mean, it was one of his higher scores. It was like a 990 or something like that. And he won that top end.
992.
992. Yeah, it was a lot. He won it that year. And I was going into that, I was going into the restaurant in the back at the time. I don't remember if it was J&T's or what it was, but it was, one of the restaurants at the Grand. And I went in there, and I'm rolling in there and, just getting ready to have dinner kind of by myself. And, this is after everything's done. And Leo's there, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing, Zach?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just, grabbing a bite to eat. Everybody's kind of leaving and I'm here." And he's like, "Well, have dinner with me." And so he sat,
Yep.
I sat down, I had dinner with Leo, and, everybody all week long is asking him about shooting all the time. And so I didn't want to do that. And I just kind of asked him, "Leo, what do you like to do other than shoot?" He's like, "I like to collect coins and play cards." And I'm like, and he's just the coolest guy in the world, but I think he'd want
And he was a huge Van Halen fan.
I mean, who doesn't like Eddie Van Halen? But
Exactly.
that being said, he bought my dinner, and he just won like $54,000 in Lewis money on that thing. I think it was. It was a big one. But he bought my dinner and just said, "Thanks for having dinner with me, Zach." And he always used to make you feel included. He always used to make you feel like whatever you shot was good. And
Yep.
that was just something about him that he did, and he had grace. And he never took anything from anybody. He'd always give more than he took. And in that kind of a guy, you want him to win. I mean, you want to beat him, but when you're not beating him, you're like, "I'm glad Leo won today," because who could be mad at him winning? You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Leo is a great guy, and I was fortunate to shoot with him a lot. And I got to see on that side of the shooting. And like you said, the, just talking to him about non-shooting stuff. I traveled with him a lot, him and Hoppy, and I never talked a lot about shooting. We talked about the others, which is a cool part of it.
The life stuff, right? And I think
Exactly.
that's what helps. I mean, I had a lot of mentors growing up, and you being one of them, and just kind of giving, it's like I had like 7 dads between my dad and all the other dads, but it was like you
Yeah.
take a little bit from each one. You're like, okay, be gentle like Ricky, or be gentle like Leo, and then shoot doubles like Ricky, and these little stuff. But that being said, I had fun with this today. I think one thing we might want to do is, maybe go down memory lane one day and just tell some stories.
Yep.
And spend some time and maybe get some people on here that know, the history trap shooting side and do a couple little stories. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But that being said, I want you to shoot good there this week, and we'll
That's the
stay in
plan.
touch. Is there anything you think we're missing today?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
We'll talk maybe next week in Iowa. You gonna come over to Iowa or no?
It's in the air. I'm thinking about it heavily. I know they've got that $10,000 added, which I think people really need to consider going to Iowa for that because that's a big deal. I really want to come. I really want to come. The problem is I last month I pretty much did a whole lot of shooting, and I also have to think of my clients and my practice and what's going on with work.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to get a lot of stuff caught up on so that I can be prepared going into the ground and make that count. I'm working like heck right now, putting in 12-hour days so that I can maybe squeeze into Iowa a little bit, but we'll see. Okay. It's in the air. That being said, I did want to thank our show sponsors. Obviously, Remington for being with us from the beginning. Wenig Stockwork for taking care of me and Rick always having our backs. Shot Tracker, and then RM Shooting Clinics. He's been helping my handicap a little bit. I might need to work on the cost, but I like it. And and your one and only Zach Danini. If you need a financial guy, would love to help you. Would love to talk to you. And we appreciate you guys listening for another episode, and we'll talk next Friday.
Absolutely. See you, everybody. Good luck.
Thanks for tuning in to Trap Talk.